Thank you so much for joining us today. We have a fantastic presentation. We are going to be talking about how to create a pandemic-proof agency with the team at Glick Insurance. We've got Michael Glick, the president, Elizabeth Benton, the COO, and Mike Alfred, managing partner. Glick team, how's it going?
Doing great. Thanks for having us today, Chris.
My pleasure. Thanks for being on. And just a quick housekeeping for everybody in the audience. Be sure to stay until the end for your bonuses because we have a lot of cool stuff for everybody today. I know we have a mix of customers and new folks here. DYL is the ultimate business phone system. It actually connects sales and marketing software all into one platform, text messaging, power dialing, instant lead response. It's huge in the insurance industry and huge agencies like Michael's. And actually, speaking of which, I know you guys had been with us for a while. What actually brought you over to DYL when you first started?
You know, we've been here now 6 years, and it's been a great 6 years with you all, and you're constantly evolving your technology and making it better and better. And the reason we left our last firm, we were with Finality Phone Systems for about the same amount of time, was, so we've been on VoIP for going on 10 years, 10, 11 years now, was they had the same system. It never changed. So they weren't evolving the technology. And we saw what you all were doing and some of the things you were doing, and you kind of had everything in one place. So it was very attractive. I went to a meeting, there were about 30 of us. I was a former nationwide agent. So we had a group of 30 top nationwide agents, and you all presented one day. And as soon as I saw it in the presentation, I just knew we had to make the switch to DYL. So we'd used you all prior, which is kind of a funny story. When you were just dial your leads, we used you as a lead generator. We would get internet leads to come in there, and then they would call out, and it worked great. But then when you came out along with the phone system, it was just a home run for us. It was a perfect fit for what we were trying to do.
Very cool. And a little bit about you guys. You guys are one of the premier agencies, not only in the United States, but especially in North Carolina. If you're in North Carolina, there's barbecue, there's basketball, and then there's Glick Insurance. You guys are everywhere. And actually, Michael, it's so funny. I realized we actually spoke years ago when you were talking to us about your merger and acquisition strategy. So if those of you are interested in growing your agency with acquisitions, be sure to check out that training on the DYL site because Michael is definitely a master at it. And just to dive into really, obviously, what we're going to talk about today is the pandemic. Has it been like for everybody? We're going to just do a quick poll. Like, are you guys working from home? Are you in multiple offices? Are you, still kind of freaking out and like what's going on with you guys here? So we make sure the content is for you as opposed to just things that we want to talk about. Pretty good mix here. And oh, by the way, while you guys are filling out that poll, I wanted to give a shout out. Glick Insurance has the best call to action I've ever seen on an insurance website. Every insurance website has the most generic stuff where it's like, oh, would you like a quote? You guys actually bring a huge value proposition, and I'd love to know how you came up with this. Are you saving the maximum amount possible on your current insurance policy? We can review it for you to find out. Review it now. Like, it sounds like such an easy favor. Like, oh, thanks, I appreciate it. How did you guys come up with this type of call to action for your audience?
I'll jump off. Yeah, I think you have to kind of find a way to differentiate yourself from the market because everybody has, let us quote your business, but if you can actually review someone's policy and help educate them, it may be, what you recommend may be more expensive than what they're currently paying. So I think that setting ourselves apart by being a consultant and helping educate a client can help set us apart. If we can save them, get them better coverage and save money at the same time, it's a win-win for everyone. But we're big on making sure that appropriate coverage is set there, and by reviewing what they have versus just give them a quote and give them the cheapest price we can goes a long way towards our credibility and our longevity too.
Very cool. And that really seems to be a pattern when we interview a lot of these top agents around the country. It seems like really leading with value and making it such a no-brainer for them to step forward into that process seems to be a common pattern there. And speaking of, I guess, getting customers, how were you guys getting customers pre-pandemic? What was that flow like of people coming in and signing up for new insurance or even cross-selling?
The pandemic really made us take a new look at our business, to be honest. I'm just going to back up a second, Chris, and tell you that when the pandemic hit for us, I lost a lot of sleep in the beginning. I didn't know what in the heck was going to happen to this business that I had spent over 20 years building. And to think, how are we going to, number one, close our offices? Number two, how are we going to have to do business from home? Because we have never, ever done that before. And then thirdly, just what was going to happen with the economy, with all the businesses closing. We have a lot of small business insurance as well. So just what were we going to do? I even had to reach out, kind of calm me down one day. I spoke to the regional VP of Nationwide and said, are you all going to pay us commissions? I didn't know what was going to happen. So after the initial shock wore off, what we did, we kind of game planned, Elizabeth, Mike, and I, as to how we were going to move forward. And I had met a gentleman in Las Vegas at a convention that was really good with computers and systems, and he was going to be the one to lock our systems down from cyber attacks. But he also was huge help in the beginning, getting us set up with how are we going to work from home, because we had no clue as to how to work from home. The easiest part of work from home was DYL, that we were able to unplug those phones and plug them in at home. It was just so easy. And then we came up with other things that we could do to log me in professional, for example, instead of having to buy, because we have 20 locations, 50 plus team members, instead of going out and trying to buy 50 laptops when everybody was out of laptops, we were able to buy these Chromebooks and log into our computer from home with Log Me In Professional. Then also Elizabeth was reminding me another thing that we did, because I was worried, well, what's going to happen when all these people are home? Are they actually going to work all day? Or are they going to, play with their kids and do whatever? And we had Active Track was another system that we used, and that would track what they were doing throughout the day. So we had, we kind of came up with a game plan, and we figured that out. And what was amazing is I think our sales were better when we had our doors locked, because lots of times we didn't have everyone at home. We had that way in the beginning, but eventually we had our team inside with the doors locked all the way until Labor Day. Then we finally made the decision that we were going to, get all the screens and the mask and everything and allow customers to come in. So we've had doors open since then, and almost our whole team is working in the office. We do have I think 3 or 4 that work from home, but those are the ones that we know are prepared and can work from home. We're big believers in working in the office because of the camaraderie. Just when you're at work, I think you're more successful in what you're doing because it's just the right environment. But some people work better from home, so we're not saying no to that. It just has to be the right person. Beyond that, we also during the pandemic saw an opportunity to go after internet leads. We have what we call our inside sales division, and I'll let Mike speak to that. But that's how we really have changed our business this year, to go after business, really taking advantage of the phone and calling out to folks. So Mike, if you want to speak to how we've kind of evolved to that, because prior we were just your basic block and tackle, go out and prospect and get referral sources and things like that. And we have some of that as well. But what I see really exploding for us is the inside sales team. So Mike, do you want to speak to that real quick, please?
Yeah, sure. I can do that. Yeah, I think you have to. I think the pandemic was actually good for our agency. It kind of opened our eyes to a lot of opportunities that we were missing, because before it was very, we were very traditional. We still are in some sense a very traditional agency in that we have all these physical locations and clients come in, but it made us look at other avenues where we could grow, because it's really hard to grow a big agency like this significantly. And that was one thing we weren't doing, was really going after, internet opportunities. So we've partnered with another firm that provides us internet leads, and we use software like DYL to make those automated phone calls, right? So, and that's kind of what the claim to fame is for DYL, is dial your leads, right? So leads are coming in, and it's automated, where our internet sales group, they don't even have to think about, okay, got to actually get the phone number, put it in the phone, dial it, and then just we're making hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of phone calls a day with, we've got a small team of 3 people, but they don't have to think about who they need to call. We preload those lists for them. We have, some vendors that are downloading those internet leads into the system, and they're just dialing for dollars. And it's been, really, really successful. And we probably wouldn't have done that had something like the pandemic, come about. We probably just would have carried on the way we were doing business. So it's actually been good for us in some sense.
And that's a really interesting point because, I mean, with 20 locations, you have a ton of amazing real estate and foot traffic. And so for that to sort of be taken away, at least temporarily, you guys, you made an incredibly quick shift to that. Now, is it more of a balance between these leads and then now also being able to take advantage of the in-person interaction again?
I think the in-person interaction actually has harmed us, to be honest.
Yep.
I think when we had the doors shut, we were selling more policies because the people were focused on sales all day. And when you open the doors, I'm not saying it's not your best customers because we love all our customers, but it's the same customers every month coming in to pay. And then they take up a lot of time when they come inside. Where a phone, it's a little different when we're on the phone with them. Another thing I'd like for Mike to touch on is we have a relationship with a home builder that sends us leads, and we extensively use DYL to market to those customers.
This is probably my favorite part about DYL. You've heard the old adage of work smarter, not harder. Well, we still work really hard, but we work smart too, in that we leverage technology. With something like DYL, you have a lot of automations inside DYL that you may not have in your current system that really makes life a lot easier. So what Michael's talking about, we have a relationship with a really large home builder, and they build all over North Carolina, South Carolina, to the tune of about 1,500 to 1,600 homes a year. And we are the exclusive insurance agency for that builder. So every time they sell homes, each division will send us their sales list for each week or each month. So it's a lot of leads coming in every week. So what we use DYL for is a contact management system, right? So where we load in all the client detail, and we use an automated workflow inside of DYL to automatically, based upon how you set it up, it'll automatically send them an email. Hey, congratulations on your new home. We just want to introduce ourselves. It's very nice, but they're going to get an email. They'll have pre-generated text messages. I don't know if everybody on the call is still dialing for dollars, but we text for dollars quite a bit, and that makes our life really easy, where our salespeople don't constantly have to be like, okay, it's been 5 days, I got to email this guy again. The automation inside of here, and you can take it out as far as you want, make it as elaborate as you want, but that has been really a game changer for especially that home builder, in that we're selling policies mostly by text messages because people just don't pick up their phone anymore in a lot of cases. So I'll tell you right, if you're looking at DYL, that's one of the main reasons I would promote it all day long, is all the automations inside of it that you can set up.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't answer my phone at all anymore. It's just all text messages. And speaking of automation, so this is kind of the agenda. We're going to actually dive into some brass tacks here. Automating accountability, separating your sales and service teams, and the powerful shift in productivity from that, and then really creating a culture of remote collaboration. And I know we talked about this a bit earlier, Michael, as far as this tech stack. LogMeIn Pro, this allows you to obviously log in from anywhere, so you can use a Chromebook and connect your computer. And then ActiveTrack, for this, when you're looking at your staff, what kind of numbers or what kind of engagement are you looking for, if someone is working remotely?
We haven't been focused on this much anymore, because that was more for when we sent everybody home and not the ones that are really built to be at home. So that's just something that you can use if you've got somebody that has to be at home, that you're kind of like, I'm just not sure they're going to really work as hard from home. But the people that we have working from home now, they're kind of seasoned professionals. Like we would do weekly Zoom calls. We use GoToMeeting, and we'd get everybody on there, and we would have everyone come on that meeting, and then we'd have someone work from home and kind of tell us like how they were doing it. And that person was coming to, acting as if they were coming to work. They'd have their coffee at the same time. They'd get dressed like they were going to work. They'd have certain office hours, and they had it down to a science. That's the person you want working from home. Trying to force someone to be work from home is tough, but if you have to, ActiveTrack's a good tool to use.
This was really interesting to me too, that in our pre-interview, you mentioned, obviously when people were working remotely, but really almost fostering this culture of accountability, having performance goals, especially for your producers. Would you mind speaking to that? Like what kind of numbers and metrics you're looking at with your producers?
So we use a system called Agency Zoom, and it's a sales tracking scoreboard for your agency. And you enter your employees in the system and you enter what you want to track. If you want to track premium, sales numbers, revenue, you want home and auto, you can, drill it down to whatever you want to track in the system. And then you set monthly goals for your employees in there. And we set goals for all of our employees by policy count and premium. And then every day when they log in and they enter a sale, it's going to tell them where they stand for the day. And it's going to say, you're short one policy for the day, or you're hitting your goal for the month. And that's how we tracked everyone. And that is really a good system, especially for the employees at home. But Mike enters those numbers in the system every month. You can change your numbers, you can move them around. And so we had a goal we wanted to hit in growth for the agency. And so we took that and just divided it kind of by the producers and the service team, and then gave them those numbers on Agency Zoom.
Yeah, and Elizabeth, great job there. And what we love about Agency Zoom is the cost. Agency Zoom, Elizabeth, tell them how much that cost and how, it is our daily scoreboard. Every day at 6:00, I get a listing of what each person has sold and how much premium. So it's just fantastic tool to have. But go ahead, Elizabeth.
So Agency Zoom, if you're a single agent, like one location, it's $79 a month. And if you're a multi-agency, it's $99 a month. And the other nice thing that the Agency Zoom can do for your agency is Google reviews. So after you sell a policy and you put it in the system in Agency Zoom that you sold the policy, it's going to automatically email the customer out, I think 3 to 5 business days later, as long as you put their email in there, and then it'll ask for a Google review. So especially in the times, of getting on the internet to do everything, increasing your SEO search and getting to the top of that list, those Google reviews have really helped us. I think we had like 71 Google reviews in the past month or so since we started making sure everyone put those email addresses in the system.
And you decided to separate your sales and service team so that really among your 20 locations, whether they're in the office or at home, they're all one sales team, one service team. Can you speak to what prompted that and the results that have come from that?
Absolutely. So we talked about our mergers and acquisitions, and we had done a bunch to get to our size. Throughout my career, I had done 38 mergers and acquisitions. So, getting all those on board and integrating, that was a chore that Elizabeth especially did a ton to do every time we would bring a new one on. But what happened was I was a buyer for a while, and then I had someone approach me, and I found out what the agency could be valued at if we sold it, and also the idea of partnering with a larger firm. So in October of last year, we sold the firm to Relation Insurance out of California. So we're still Glick Insurance, a Relation company, but now we have a larger partner. So we're part of a larger organization. So I tell you that because there was a lot behind the scenes in our 20 locations. I had 5 separate partnerships with producers, and it was hard for us to manage this agency as one big group. So what happened when we bought all the partners out and everybody came together as one large agency, we were able to act like one agency. So instead of when you call in for someone in Gastonia, for example, or you call into Burlington, we were able to divide this up into sales and service. So we split our team, which I'd been wanting to do for years, but the partnerships wouldn't allow us to do this. So we were able to do that. And then Relation came in and said, you know what you need? A fit team or a first impression team. So we've now built our own, more or less. We still have some work to do, but Mike and Elizabeth done a fantastic job building this virtual sales center. So when you call in, our first impression team answers the phone, and those are our most bubbly, best personality type people on our team that will handle the initial calls. Whereas some of our other more seasoned veteran staff would be able to continue to do their daily work instead of having to always answer the call and take a payment, or maybe a simple billing question or whatever, change a car, those type things. They're able to do other things. So now we're all tied in. All 20 locations are one. And we did that because we have a system like DYL. So we've got this virtual service center that's still a work in progress, but it's amazing the results that we're already getting by being able to do this. I'll give you an example. You want to talk about cost savings as a business owner. We had one of our staff in Raleigh leave. So when she left, typically we would have had to have immediately hire another person. Well, now we kind of took a look at it and you said, I don't know that we need to replace her just yet, because phone calls are all being answered. The service team's taking care of everything. So why don't we take those dollars, and instead of piling them into another service person, go and hire us another person for the inside sales team, the internet team. And that's who we're currently looking for. So we've taken those dollars, and it'll be a little less for that person because it doesn't cost as much to be on that team. So we've had some cost savings there, but we didn't have to spend any. We could have just taken the savings because we're now one big virtual service center. So I'll pause there.
That's such a great point. So you have multiple benefits from this. You've got being able to let people focus on what they do best, your seasoned people, writing more policies, creating those relationships, having the service team handle calls, dealing with overflow. So if someone's, blowing up at one location, they're getting a lot of calls, you're never in trouble because you've got 20 other locations of team members that can take that call. So it seems like you've got a beautiful system for maximizing your productivity and your client relationships as well.
Yeah, we set up the feature of DYL of round robin, and that's how our phone calls ring to our service staff. Is they have the IVR prompts where they're going to pick, like, make a payment, sales, review your policy. And so then we have teams within there that it rings their phones in a round robin fashion, so that if someone is busy, like you said, or has at an office, or even with COVID, you never know when someone's going to be out for 2 weeks, or, that everyone else across the whole company can take those phone calls and take the burden off of that one location that might be really busy. So that's been a huge help for us.
It might be fun to show this stuff in action. And so with this office view, we actually have structured this the same way, funny enough. So we have our sales team, we have our service team. You can see everybody in the office if you want to see the people who just do the phone technology support, people that help with passwords, people that do sales and tech and development. So we break these out. And so you can actually have everyone in different locations here. Do you use this feature a lot as far as like coaching staff and seeing what's going on in the office view?
Yes. Everyone should have 2 monitors in our offices. And so everyone keeps DYL up on one screen. And that's what we tell them to do every day. First thing, you need to log in. You need to keep DYL up. That way you can always see who's on the phone. You can always look and check call history. A customer calls back in, they have no idea who they spoke to. You can always search for that person's phone number, and you can always see the history of who they spoke to, and then get them back to the right person when they call in.
Absolutely. And you can see here on these little icons. So let's say if someone's on the phone and they need to go to voicemail, you can actually drag and drop. So I could take this call, drag it over to the voicemail. I could send it over to their cell phone if they're out of the office. We also have an app. And then you can even call, email, chat. And this is probably my favorite feature. This is the listen feature. So for those of you wanting to manage staff easily, you can listen in on a live call. You can coach them with our whisper features, or you could even barge in, make it a 3-way call if they're really in trouble. And so all of this stuff is here. All the call recordings are here. Do you find that that's helpful for listening to call recordings later?
Being able to record all calls is so powerful in so many ways. Number one, for E&O. Somebody calls in and said, hey, I called you and added that car. Well, we can quickly check their phone number to see when the last time they called and pull the voicemail and see if they actually did call to add that car. So E&O is a big one. But number two, the one that we love to use, and we pull a certain number of calls each week for coaching calls. And it's not a gotcha call. It's a, hey, put your arm around somebody and say, you could do this way, or say this, or do this. And are you asking these questions while you're on the phone? And you can really coach your team. So record all is huge for us.
Do you find that your team needs much prompting with taking notes?
Yeah, we like the sticky notes. And this is, I love that it keeps the track of your texts as well and keeps them in the system. But the sticky notes are huge, so that when a customer calls in, if, sometimes you get those customers going through a divorce, or, doesn't want you calling them at nighttime or something, if they work night shift or whatever. So the sticky notes on the front page are huge for us. We use that a lot. And so that right when someone calls in, they can immediately see some important note up top. Yeah.
And so this is actually what your leads will look like too. So you can see here all of your information, your lead sources. So those of you, like you had mentioned, that those centers of influence, like the home builders, you can actually show where people came from here. You can merge them together if you have a lot of different leads, and then all your notes here as well. So if you want to look in and type a note, it'll timestamp it. And actually your text messaging is here as well. So, and you mentioned kind of automating some of your texts. What kind of texts do you send to either prospects or to customers?
Yeah, we do. I mean, we use text all the time. With the automated text, we'll typically use it as a follow-up to an email, something like that. If we're actually prospecting, if some folks, you can put attachments in text messages and that kind of thing, to where if we're looking for photo of a driver's license or something like that, they can text that back and forth with a customer. Confirmation of a payment that they made, we can send those numbers. So there's lots of different applications you can use text messaging for. But yeah, that we use that a lot. We really do.
Awesome. And we can template things out here too. So
Yeah.
if you say the same thing over and over, it'll put their name in there automatically. You can attach pictures and PDF documents. If you want to shoot somebody a quote really quickly, hey, could you text me, my policy info, I just got pulled over. Like you can do that really easily here. And so you see all the text messages, appointments. And then as far as automation, do you tend to take advantage of this as well as far as the long-term workflows?
We do, yeah. If we're going to do a policy review, it'll send the client an email. There's a lot of different ways. But what it'll do is it'll actually set it in your calendar, inside of DYL, to remind you that you got something coming up today. Like, you can set tasks for yourself. If we've set out we've sent an email, we've sent 2 text messages, and then we might have a task to follow up with an actual phone call. That's how these workflows will be set up, in our agency. It works really well. So there you go. That's a perfect example.
One of the main ones we use it for, I think, is weekly cancellation reports. We send out to the agents every week the policies that canceled for the prior week. And what they need to do is they go in and call the client, and then action 2, it creates a task, it creates a text to the customer, and we set it up based on auto and home. And so it does it for 6 months or 12 months. And it just texts them, are you interested in starting your policy with us again? And then I think we send another text like the week before their policy should be renewing. And then it creates a task for the agent, if they haven't heard back from them, to give them a call. So as we work these cancellations, we put them in here, the ones that we can't get reinstated, and then it just automatically shows up for these people 5 months or 11 months later for them to reach out again. But it does, like Mike said, we work smarter, not harder. It does the work for you by sending them the text for them to reach out to us.
That's great. You can see here, you can actually set this up and customize it. So if you want to add things to it, add a task, you can have this go out for months on end like they do. And we actually have a ton saved in here too. So we have a lot, we talk to some of the best agents here, like the Glick agency, and just say, hey, what do you do? And then we just make these types of templates in here so you can use these whenever you want. And I saw we have a mix of captive and independent agents. So those of you with Allstate or Farmers, we even have some based around those best practices as well. And maybe just to speak about the reporting, do you have any sort of call or phone time metrics you want to hold people to?
Elizabeth talked earlier about using a round robin, and we take thousands of phone calls every week, across our whole agency. And we use these reports a lot of times to make sure that those calls are equally distributed across our service team. We want to make sure that we're not, everyone's answering their fair share of calls, and we're not overloading someone So we use the reporting a lot of times for that, make sure, it's an equitable distribution of phone calls for everyone on the service team.
Yeah, you definitely don't want people getting overloaded, or even salespeople getting, hey, that person got too many leads. And you can see this here with your lead routing. So those of you using leads, whether you're creating your own or buying leads from a lead service that we integrate with, you can actually name the source, name the type of lead, and then distribution type. You can auto assign it. You can have it go to certain groups. And like you mentioned, the round robin, so it evenly distributes it. So it's a really cool way of just automating that part of the process as well. And we do integrate, with pretty much every lead provider out there. That's how we got started. And when you do buy those leads, DYL will ring your phone the moment the lead comes in. So you're always first on the phone with your leads. You can set up text workflows right away in case you miss them. So it's a really cool way to do that. And I do see some questions popping in that I don't want to miss. I saw a couple customers in here that wanted to know more about these features. You can always talk to our customer service team and they'll give you some best practices on that as well.
I rely on the DYL service team all the time. If I need something done, it's hard to remember, and I just call them, and they are always very helpful to help me set something up, like a ring group or an IVR or things like that. If you call them, they are very responsive and will help you get those set up, because it is hard to remember it all, and you're not going to be able to do it. So they are there and very helpful.
Just want to give everybody some bonuses. Thanks so much for hanging out with us today. The first is we're actually going to give you the Impact of COVID-19 ebook. We actually took the studies from the insurance industry and put that all together in one handy ebook. So you're going to get that in your email. And then the second bonus is actually 3 bonuses in one. So we're actually going to give you the replay, of course, for this video training today. We're also going to turn that into a cheat sheet that you're going to get in your email as well. So you can just take it with you. And then finally, if you do want to look at implementing some of this stuff the way that the Glick team has done that, you can actually do that right away with our sales team. They'll actually give you a one-on-one tour. If you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at DYL. You can always email us at sales@dyl.com, and I'll put that in the chat. And of course, click that link. Everyone joining us on the call today, thank you so much. We really appreciate you, and have a great rest of your Thursday.
You too.